My life was very chaotic and self serving. A lot of the common themes in my life were inadequacy, shame, and rejection. Growing up, I grew up in a predominantly white church and felt like a second class citizen a lot of times. We were the only Black family in the church. The church also ended up falling into legalism. And so it really distorted my view and understanding of who God was. My home life, it was scary, chaotic. There was a lot of abuse and just very emotionless. My dad was a military man, and so emotions were viewed as a weakness, and they just weren't encouraged or supported. And then later in life, I endured a sexual assault, which ended up bringing on immense amount of shame. And so it was very hard. I had a lot of resentment and anger towards God. And the quickest answer, the safest answer was to run. I didn't think that He loved me. I didn't think that He cared. I didn't think that He saw me. My earthly father was very abusive, and so I compared my spiritual father to that, and I thought that God didn't care and that I wasn't seen, that I wasn't worthy of His love. And so I kind of cut off any resemblance of Him in my life and ran to the world and looked for acceptance in people, became kind of a pro in people pleasing. As God began to reframe my story, it was really scary. I thought my story was too heavy and too hard. And so I was very resistant in the beginning as He was reframing my story, but God just was very patient. In Restore, I felt very exposed and vulnerable, but what I learned during that time was God was inviting me and allowing me to see and experience that I'm seen, I'm known, and I'm loved. That was really encouraging to kind of continue to push forward, even though I wasn't aware of where God was taking me. He invited me kind of to come out of the shadows and into His light. So He used a lot of imagery in that process. Psalms 56:8 says, you've collected every tear in a bottle. And there were a lot of tears in that season, but God was very loving and gentle and capturing each tear. And as the tears flowed, He whispered gently, I love you. And in that, begin to mend my heart and restore my soul. He's been restoring my soul through His scripture in so many ways. In particular, Psalms 139 stands out to me. I think in that chapter, every line held significance to how God was rectifying my story and teaching me to abide in Him. I think it's verse 7, it says, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? And, at that point in my life, I basically became like a pro track star. Running was my go-to, but God taught me in that season that there was no place that I couldn't go, that He couldn't find me, that He couldn't meet me. It really helped to build my confidence and my faith in Him, to know that wherever I was in the darkest parts of my story, He met me there. And in that, He brought light. He also, in that season, really surrounded me with a small group of women who had similar stories that maybe they had went through, at least similar themes. And so they were very encouraging and supporting. And in moments where I wanted to run or I wanted to resist, they would meet me every time. If I was scared, they reminded me of God's peace and comfort. If I was resistant or angry, they just reminded me that God is there in the midst of that anger, and God is offering this immense peace and healing. Throughout a lot of my trauma, I felt like I didn't have a voice. And God used this community of women that when I didn't feel like I knew what to say or what God even was asking of me, they gave voice to someone who had always felt voiceless. And through them, God took my brokenness and started to bring it back together. I think God's calling me to live differently simply by recognizing that because of the cross, I've been unified back to Christ. And with that, my shame, my inadequacies, my rejection, that's one, not how he sees me. And that he's far bigger than that. And so he's brought an immense a freedom in that. I think because of that, it's allowing me to live in a much more peaceful space. He's opened my heart to be able to receive his words, his truths. He's broken up a lot of the lies that I lived and accepted and believed for so much of my life. And he has reshaped them to his truths. And so, again, with that, it's invited me into this space of just true freedom. I think as far as loving others differently, that's been a process. But with that, God has brought forgiveness towards people, especially people that may have contributed to those past traumas, and also created this vulnerable space where he's allowing me to be able to meet people where they are and love them as he loves them. It's an ongoing journey, but I'm grateful to kind of be a part of the ride.